p.m. Because we all just did an invocation and pledge of allegiance, I am going to skip item number 2 and move on to item number 3, and that is the mayor's report. This past couple of weeks have been extremely busy. On April the 15th, I traveled to Jacksonville to present a key to the city to Holland and Knight law firm in appreciation of their pro bono work in excess of $50,000, which they did for the city of Lynn Haven to set up the City of Lynn Haven Hurricane Relief Trust Fund. That trust fund right now has collected in excess of $150,000, and we have been giving that out as we collected it to residents in the amount of $1,000 grants at this time. We hope to offer more in the future when more corporate sponsors come forward, as I'm sure that they're going to as we continue to move through the aftermath of this storm. We will be presenting at our next commission meeting $40,000 more in $1,000 grants to 40 more families. So we're very excited about that, being able to help families in Lynn Haven. And Holland and Knight did a very nice presentation, which they are using to help promote our fund and also to try to help us to get more corporate donations. And one of the things they pointed out, which to me is the most wonderful thing about what we do with our Hurricane Relief Trust Fund, is the fact that every single penny of it goes into cash grants to our families who need this money for helping with their insurance deductibles, or maybe just buying groceries or paying bills. But it's something that's very unique and that I'm very proud of for our city. April 17th, I had a meeting with Tetra Tech and World Claim for a meeting regarding progress with the City of Lynn Haven's insurance claims on our insured buildings and properties, and met with city manager and others in that meeting. And then on the same day at 2 o'clock, met with FEMA to discuss options of what are called 406 projects for restoring certain buildings which were not completely destroyed, and whether those options were what we would be looking for, or if we wanted to look at different options. On April 18th, met with FEMA representatives for project updates and reimbursement updates on all of the information which we have presented to them at this point, and that's going very well. It's a huge undertaking, and I would like to commend both Tetra Tech, who is working with us, FEMA for how they're working with us and meeting with us weekly, but most of all our city staff, who's worked so very hard to make sure that all that documentation is so meticulous and so well done. So thank you very much for all that you're continuing to do with that. I also attended a meeting with Ben Lee of Hancock Bank and John Mazik, who is the representative of the bond company that we're dealing with to secure bonds for the city as we move forward in paying the tremendous bills, as we've discussed many times, are in excess of our entire city budget. I've also met and spoken by phone with numerous residents. Many complaints about inspection processes, building permit processes, numerous questions regarding debris, property removal, abandoned property. At 6 months after the storm, there are just daily frustrations that everyone is going through, and we're all trying to work through it together. So we are certainly appreciative of the patience that people are showing, and we will all get through this together. One other item I wanted to bring up, Bob Schultz, who recently ran for City Commission in Lynn Haven, came by City Hall today and had the remainder of his campaign account that he put to the Hurricane Relief Fund. So I just wanted to say publicly thank you to Bob Schultz for that. And then finally, we had a meeting this week, as you probably remember, at a recent meeting, we talked about extending the contract on an as-needed basis with Ashford and Crowder Golf, our haulers who have been removing debris, not only from our city, but from other parts of the county as well. And in talking with our city department heads and with our acting city manager, Vicki Gaynor, we have would like to put forward to the commission this evening, possibly either for discussion, but hopefully in the form of a motion, that we would do one more pass through our city during the month of May, that pass would be 4 weeks long, no longer. And that way we could give approximately 2 weeks notification to residents, please get everything out that you possibly can. We know there's always going to be something else, probably for the next year or two, with cleaning up and demolition. But if we could get a motion that we would do one more pass, and it would be a very measured pass. We've talked about maybe putting one of the haulers on the east side of town, one on the west, and doing it street by street, sort of like we've been doing the city cleanup. One more pass, a very almost surgical pass to pick up every bit of debris that we possibly can get out by the roads. And so there'll be C&D debris, vegetative debris, whatever is out there. So I would entertain discussion or a motion at this time from the commission to go forward with that. We already have the contract in place and we've already talked about extending it.
So moved. Second.
So there is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the commission and certainly from any of the new commissioners or anyone who would like to ask questions or have any concerns?
Mayor, the only thing I would ask is if we're gonna wait till May to do the haul, we need to seriously do some kind of advertising campaign to make sure the residents know that we're gonna be doing this.
And I agree. I think I just said that we would have 2 weeks to get that out and let people know. So yes, I definitely agree with that. Is there any other discussion? Is there any discussion or concerns from the public? Thank you. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Yes.
Commissioner Parno.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so we will engage with Crowder Gulf and Ashbridge for a 1 month long final debris pickup for Lynn Haven, and we would start advertising immediately and getting that word out to residents to push everything out to the curb that they possibly can so we can get it picked up. Thank you. And I have one other item on the mayor's report, and that is a proclamation for National Safe Boating Week. And I know I have some representatives here to accept the proclamation. Whereas we look forward to the warm weather months and our nation's abundant outdoors and waterways for relaxation and recreation, America's lakes, rivers, and oceans are enjoyable but can sometimes pose danger to watergoers. National Safe Boating Week gives us the opportunity to highlight the importance of safety precautions and sensible behavior when spending time on the water. And whereas precautions include wearing life jackets, responsible boaters are smart and recognize that life jackets will not work if they are not worn. Safe boating is also sober boating, since alcohol use is a leading factor in fatal boating accidents. And whereas we applaud the all-volunteer USCG Auxiliary and local Flotilla 19 for being essential safe boating partners with the Safe Boating Council, and through the efforts of Harry Sweezy, the coloring and activity book for children has been able to teach our young people the importance of boating safety, swimming safety, and keeping our waters and beaches clean. And over 18,400 coloring books have been distributed to children who learn about safety while they color. Whereas the city dedicates this week of National Safe Boating Week in special recognition of Harry Sweezy for his many hours of volunteer work on behalf of the Auxiliary Coast Guard and his development of the coloring and activity book. Now, therefore, I, Marva D. Anderson, Mayor of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, do hereby support the goals of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary and Local Flotilla 19 and proclaim the week of May 18th through May 24th, 2019 as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to urge everyone to use safe boating practices. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Lynn Haven to be affixed this 23rd day of April 2019. And I understand that Mr. Sweezy could not be here today, and he has sent a representative to accept. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. I just wanted to let you know about National Safe Boating Week again. Thank the mayor and the council for inviting us here. But why is it important? Well, you look around Bay County, you see that the maritime industry is a very big industry here. You talk about the military boats, the Navy, the Air Force has boats. You got you have Eastern Shipbuilding. And let's talk about just recreational boats. There are over 18,000 recreational boats registered in Bay County. Unfortunately, only 70% of the people involved in 70% of the people involved in accidents have never had a boater safety course. 70% of those boats have never been inspected for the minimum federal requirements for safety equipment on board. That's where we come into Coast Guard Auxiliary. We offer boater safety courses. We offer inspections of your vessels so that you don't get a ticket when you're out there. In fact, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, about 35,000 strong, we support the Coast Guard in all their missions, and we can partake in all their missions except law enforcement. I don't think they want us to have guns because we're too old and shoot ourselves. But anyway, that's beside the point. But thank you, Mayor, for letting me address you, and I hope that
Thank you.
everybody's voter safety issues.
Thank you for all that you do. Thank you very much for coming. At this time, we'll move to item number 4, which is the Commissioner's Report. And again, Commissioner Tender is not with us this evening because she was in the emergency room earlier with a heart-related issue. She is resting comfortably at home right now if you just come in, and she is going to be undergoing some tests in the next few days, and ask for your thoughts and prayers and for a speedy recovery. Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've got a few things to go over with you. The first is the canvassing board a meeting. Obviously, we certified the results. But I was also sent back with some recommendations from the supervisor election. He is recommending that the city of Lynn Haven seriously look at having 2 locations for our next election. He also had some concerns about where we had the current election due to private property around Roberts Hall. He's asking us to look for another site next time. And I think, by understanding, he's going to send a letter to the city explaining his concerns. But I wanted to address them here tonight too. I also have met with Vicki Gaynor on several issues, and one particular one is the 9th Street Highway 77 intersection. I personally have had a couple of incidences where I've almost had an accident, and I've had several people complain about the over wide lanes on 9th Street. Vicki Gaynor and the acting police chief have looked into it. And I think they're trying to determine, the best course of action to either narrow the lane or create 2 lanes to try to alleviate that issue. I also, at the same time, got a report back from them about the 17th Street intersection on Highway 77. It's my understanding that that should be corrected by the end of May, which I know Leon Miller is here somewhere, and I may have saved y'all from having to listen to Leon tonight, just so you know. But my understanding is, Leon, it's going to be done by the end of May.
Thank you.
I also, with the issues we've had with permitting, I met with Bo Creel last week about some issues that we've had with EPCI. He assures me that he is addressing those issues. He's met with the acting city manager, and I understand she's given him some time to try to fix the problems. I'm still have some concerns, and I'm confident that Mr. Creel will try to fix the problems, but we just got to wait and see what happens. But I just want to let you updated on that information. I also had some concerns from the last task force meeting that we had, the long-term recovery task force. I think I brought it back to you talking about the census and the concern that the municipalities and local government may have with this upcoming census. And I think the city needs to look into how it's going to affect us. As far as our representation is determined by our population, as well as possible state and federal funding comes based on population. I know the county specifically gets money based on population, and it's something that we need to look at and make sure it's addressed if that's the case with our municipality. I also have, in light of the issues we've had in the last couple of weeks, I've asked the city manager to start giving me bi-weekly reports on all checks and bills that come through the commission or come through the city. And I've asked her if she would consider passing that on to the other city manager or the other commissioners as well. It doesn't hurt for more eyes to look at everything. Let's see. The last thing I've got is the abandoned derelict properties that I talked about at the last commission meeting. I'm happy to say that the city manager has already started that. She's already started having the properties assessed. I know the commission is going to get some pressure over this, but it's something that's got to be done. And we've got to look at the derelict properties and do something with them. In respect to, the property owners, I'm hoping that we can come to an agreement with them and have it cleaned up. But at the end of the day, we have to worry about safety, and we have to worry about the other citizens. One of the biggest problems I had was the 14th Street house. And I want to thank the city manager, and I also want to thank Ben Jenke, if he's here, for taking a spearhead on this and trying to get this alleviated. It's my understanding that we're moving forward with the I believe we're looking at tearing that house down, if I'm not mistaken. And I hate to see somebody lose their house, but in this situation, this house is beyond repair, in my opinion. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just wanted to comment on what you were saying about the Lynn Haven election. I understand Mark Anderson's concerns, but in all reality, we had to use the buildings that we had that were available, due to the storm, and I think he's aware of that, and we have talked about that. And also, your concern about the census, we did sign all the paperwork for our census almost a year ago, and that's in place, and we're ready, to roll with that, with the state. Everything's in order as far as the census in Lynn Haven. As far as the reports on checks and invoices, I almost a month ago, in light of the happenings, because my signature as the treasurer of the city is a facsimile, I have asked to review all checks before they're sent out. The way our accounting procedures have been set up in the city by our old auditing firm, which I have asked to have changed for the 4 years I've been here, there were no checks and balances as far as the mayor did not see the checks until they were already written. And so based on what has happened, I have asked for those to be changed, and our accounting advisor is helping with that right now. I have also issued an email that said no checks go out in Lynn Haven for anything that's not already in the budget, such as normal operations during the month without my blue ink signature on the check. So I have already addressed that almost a month ago. And then is the final thing that you were talking about, the abandoned properties. This is not something that we have neglected to do. It's something that we made a point that we would wait until the 6-month period before we started pushing people with code enforcement because of what everyone has been through. Not kicking people when they're down, when they're trying to come back and take care of their homes. So we are at that 6-month time now, and so that is why things are beginning to move now, because that was the scheduled time that we had said we would start doing it. So I just wanted to address those comments and thank you for your concerns about them as well.
Mayor, if
Yes.
I may redirect. The census issue, I understand that we've got it set up. My concern is the displaced citizen. Somebody that's displaced in Dothan fills out a census that they lived in Dothan. We have just lost their count for 10 years. That's my concern, is making sure that they know that even though they're displaced, they still need to list Lynn Haven as their home. That's my concern.
And I believe that will be addressed the way we have that set up already. But I think it's something that we certainly could take a second look at, but it's already in place. I mean, even before the hurricane, when people have gone away to college or when people are in the military, there is a way to make sure that we have a correct census for those who are not here. But I think now it's more important than any other time. I agree with you. Commissioner Aldridge,
Nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Perno?
I also have nothing to report, but I do want to thank everybody again, and I was remiss by not thanking my lovely wife back there and my daughters who have already left, so.
Thank you and welcome. At this time, I'd like to call on item number 5, our acting city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. As you can see, there have been many meetings that I've attended and been a part of, working with FEMA insurance, meeting with our commissioners, meeting with staff. It's definitely solving a lot of problems throughout the week, these past couple of weeks. One of the issues we have faced is code enforcement. So I kind of asked Ben Jonke if he'd come up and kind of give you an overview of what we're doing to try to address some of the problems that we're having and how we're handling things.
Thank you, City Manager. Our code enforcement team has been working diligently with the residents of Lynn Haven to mainly to address the debris issue. There's still obviously a lot of debris piled up on the side of the roads. Code enforcement officers are really working with the property owners, informing them that it's their responsibility to remove the debris right now. And I just heard that we will be having a final pass in May, so this is going to be great news for a lot of residents here in Lynn Haven to get this remaining debris removed in our area. One other hot topic item is are the dilapidated properties in Lynn Haven. Commissioner Russell and Mayor Anderson already mentioned in their report that we have identified about 120 properties here in Lynn Haven, buildings that are severely damaged, and where we feel that we need to take action on these properties or on these buildings. There is a due process. We can't just go ahead and tear down a building. So we are in the process right now of getting a report done by our building official that determines whether or not this building is unfit and unsafe. And with this report in hand, this case will be taken to the magistrate and presented to the magistrate for a final determination of whether or not the city is authorized to tear down that building. If the magistrate decides this, we will go ahead and start the paperwork, the process of hiring a contractor to remove the building. Of course, we will always be working with the property owner on this case if they're willing to work with us. Are there any questions?
Mayor, comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Jenke, is this gonna be a case where we're gonna have to do a bid process RFQ for each house? Or do you recommend us doing it for a blanket contract for all 120 houses and pay for one at a time as they get? Or are we gonna have to do a contract?
Right now, I asked him just to do the quote for one house at a time, just to see, because all of them we just have a list. And so we're not sure who actually is gonna fall within that category. But if we see that those too many in that category, we can absolutely do a bid.
If I can ask a question too, are these going to be individual liens on the property owners for the cost of removal?
Yes. Once the removing the building is done, the cost will be, or a lien will be placed on the property in the amount of the expenses the city incurred for removing the structure.
And if I may, we're also working with FEMA with the PPDR, the private property debris removal, which will, in some cases, those applications they're in the city hall. And individuals who are unable to afford to pay to have their home demolished or to remove that remaining debris or whatever is there, there's a possibility that FEMA would be able to reimburse for that. So that would be another funding source, and we're working right now with that with a deadline of June 1st, I believe. So
That is correct.
That's all.
Thank you. And speaking of private property debris removal, we've received 38 applications as of today. 8 of those have actually gone through the first round of inspection, and then once that's done, we send those to FEMA. FEMA will come out and say whether or not they qualify, and then we will move from there, helping those property owners to remove that debris or demolition, whatever it may be. So we encourage homeowners that need help to go out and fill out the application as soon as possible before June 1st. And Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 6 will be the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The one thing I want to address, Mayor, is that since we have a new meeting and a new board, we probably want to have a motion to excuse Ms. Tender would be appropriate.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any objection? None from the audience. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Perna,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so of course her absence is excused today.
No further report. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. Item number 7 is public commentary. This is a time when anyone in the audience may come forward with any concerns or items you'd like to address to the commission. Also, I would remind you that as we go through the agenda, if you have something you'd like to say about a particular item, you'll also be given the opportunity at that time. So is there anyone who'd like to speak? Mrs. Walker?
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue, excuse me. In line with the debris removal and code enforcement, what are we doing about the signs that various contractors, roofers from out of town, buy this home, et cetera, are nailed on mostly light posts?
I'll let acting city manager address, and also Ben Junkie can address that.
And we can come back and address that.
We're constantly picking them up and taking them to public works. So if somebody is looking for
a business sign and wants to have it back, they can always go to Public Works and we can order the pile
Okay, and that's on Illinois, right?
on Illinois Avenue.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker, did you have something else? Go ahead, please. Sure.
This is in reference to something that was on the agenda last week, ordinance 1075, the 3 parcels on Florida Avenue that I had great frustration with.
Yes.
On the cover sheet to the planning commission, there is an item here, it says, this item meeting the ordinance, the approval for the ordinance 1074, where the planning commission voted unanimously to recommend approval. If the commission votes to
Well, we're talking about 1075 is what you're talking about?
1074, I'm sorry, 1074.
Okay, go ahead. That's
Thank you.
not on the
Thank you
agenda,
for that.
so.
No, it's not on the agenda, but it was on last week's agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
If the commission votes to approve the requested amendment, which you folks did do, except for Mr. Russell, it will be sent to the Department of Economic Opportunity. And if it is not challenged within 30 days of the commission's vote, it will become effective on the 31st day. My question is, who has the capability to challenge your decision? Does a citizen have the capability to challenge the decision you made on that ordinance?
I would defer to the attorney, but I believe that a citizen has the opportunity to challenge any decision made by the commission, but I'll pass that off to the attorney and let him.
Ms. Walker, as it pertains to a decision of the board, you've got a two-part question. A citizen can challenge a decision of this commission, yes. Now, as you reference, whether the state agency, you can challenge that with a state agency. I would assume, although I'm not employed by them or work with them, that they would hear your concerns. But what they're looking for is whether or not the statutory criteria apply. So if you read through the statutes on what is allowed and what is not, they will go through and document, was this followed, is this in compliance, is this in compliance? And they will make their decision from there. That being said, I would assume that they would listen to you if you called upon.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, in the front.
David Cooley, 206 George Avenue. I would like to make a comment about code enforcement. I have seen that car with a whole back seat loaded down with brochures and signs, okay? So I have seen that out there. I'm concerned, I guess over the last year, there's a lot of things that have gone on in Lynn Haven, as everybody's fully aware of over here. I guess I'm concerned about our city employees. They've seen a lot of stuff going on that was not correct, I think, and because they said something, they were either fired or laid off over this last year. I think you look and talk to some of the people who have been laid off or fired. They said something that a person was not doing was correct, like no bid contracts, as an example, and some other things. I guess what I'm saying is there any way we make sure we have an avenue for our city employees to speak up when they see something going wrong versus being scared about their job?
Mayor.
Sir, I was going to say that unfortunately at this time, I cannot make a comment in relation to that because of the ongoing investigation. But city employees always have the opportunity to contact a board member or the mayor or to come and speak to them. I know where you're going, but I'm going to defer to attorney. But at this point in time, as much as I would like to speak, I'm unable to. We've been asked and told that at this time there's an ongoing
And
investigation.
I understand
I
that.
do
I just want,
apologize.
in a going forward basis, make sure that we've got some kind of avenue where there is no repercussions to an employee.
I think that your idea is well taken, and there's an employee manual in place, and it can be reviewed. So, thank you for coming forward. Did you want to add to that?
No, ma'am, you addressed it. I
Okay,
just did not
thank
want to comment on whether there's retribution.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Walker?
Michigan Avenue, I deferred to the previous person. That's been going on for 15 years. It was so bad back then. Citizens voiced, even one of them was arrested and beaten by the police and put away for a while because he tried to say something. It really devastated us, okay? what I noticed is, back in 1911, we owned the property around, citizens owned it. The property was given to the city for right-of-ways and the roads and the telephone poles and everything like that. That was city property, okay? The utilities charge us by taxes. You tax them, they tax us. Right now, Gulf Power, after the hurricane, is gonna hit us with a $344 million bill for the electricity. That's gonna be put on top of us. There are people in this town that took precautions and did quite well. They're being punished, and they're gonna be punished by increases of taxes up and above what we're gonna do to try and survive. That is what I would like to bring to attention to you. You as commissioners, and I'm looking right at all of you, have a chance to sit with Gulf Power when it increases its rates, and you have a chance to stand up for us. In all the meetings I've been with Gulf Power, I have not seen one representative from this city at all. I'm hoping that when Gulf Power goes through this again, that you will represent us in the increases in taxes. That's the first subject. Second
And
subject,
try to stay in 3 minutes if you
I
can.
understand.
Thank you very much.
I understand that. You are upgrading the roads in here, 390 and 389. Okay,
Okay, we're not upgrading, sir. The state is. It's not, the city's not involved, but go
I
ahead.
understand.
Go
that.
ahead.
I understand that. But this is coming through our town.
I understand.
Our town. Okay, 390 is going to be widened to 6 lanes. That is more lanes than US 10 coming right through Lynn Haven. 389 is going to be widened to 4 lanes. This is including turn lanes, bicycle paths, and medians. Okay. This is as big as US 10.
Okay, can we,
These roads are
Okay.
separated by maybe 2 blocks. This is going to impact. We have people that are on the TPO, they should have stood up and said something about this. If you're gonna acquiesce to this, we're gonna have more people leaving this town. And I wanna thank you for my 3 minutes.
thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. Come on up now.
Team Radar, Section 10. Question, you had brought up earlier about building permits.
Can you pull the microphone just a little closer to me? Just, yeah, there you go. Thank you, perfect. You're fine.
Building permits. I have been trying now for 3 weeks to get a building permit through. We've done everything. I have been told it's signed off and waiting on the desk for a permit, but it will not happen this week. It'll be another week. I've got everybody lined up to build a house, which is gonna be great for Lynn Haven, more taxes, a new house, plus we're gonna sell the other house to someone who doesn't have a home now. How can we expedite this? Because my contractor has everybody lined up. We're waiting. We sat there every day doing this.
I'm hearing you, and I've been listening to phone calls all week, and I agree with you. That process it seems like it's being long, and I will defer to acting city manager because the mayor has no power over the employees.
One of the things that we are doing, of course, we are a little bit understaffed, and that is still no excuse. But I'd love to get your name and get with Amanda afterwards and see where we are in that process. Normally, that permitting takes about anywhere from 7 to 14 days. I'm not sure how long it's been for you, but 21 days, that is a very long time. And so one of the things we will do, we've added some extra staff to try to help out with the backload of that, but there is a lot going on. And I know that Commissioner Russell has asked about maybe even hiring on an additional staff person, and that will probably happen sooner or later.
Okay, we'll get together afterwards.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anyone else? Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Hi, my name is Lori Manuel. I live at 614 Georgia Avenue, which is 7th Street as well. I am concerned about the speed limit. I know we all are because we have children in our community that are walking and riding their bikes to school. Today, I've seen speeders before in the past. Today, there was a red truck. If I was fast enough to run on my feet with this fat body, I would have gotten his tag number and called to report it. This truck must have been going to 77. He may have turned on Tennessee and just went 77, 7th Street to 77. He must have been going 70 because there is kind of a little bump where we had the roads repaired last year before this whole situation. So I'm really concerned about that. Is there any way we can put a 4-way stop there? We have it Georgia, but can we put one at 7th Street?
We do have a process in effect, and this has been an ongoing problem. It's why I ran for mayor, because I live on Tennessee Avenue, the speeding. The chief, acting chief Randy, is working on this very hard right now to try to solve it. We have a lot of people who are not living in Lynn Haven or working here, and they are using 5th Street in Tennessee again as the cut through. And yes, there's a great problem there. This address that you just given us, 614 and 614 Georgia, the way the commission handles this now, if you bring this forward, then there is supposed to be a committee that will meet, and that was made up of a member of the police department, a member of the commission, and it has not been meeting since the storm, but we need to get it back together and working again. And if a stop sign is seen to help correct the problem, we've had many debates on this commission. I always say that stop signs work, and we've had other commissioners who say that they don't, but they do work. I've seen them work on Tennessee, so I'm with you on that.
Okay.
And I hope that some of the rest of especially the new commissioners maybe will be as well. Because when you have to stop, and you should have to stop at every corner when it's 25 miles per hour with children and dogs and bicycles, I'm with you, and I am tired of it, and I want it stopped. I agree.
Now, I don't think there is a speed limit sign on 7th.
There should be, but
know
with the
there
storm,
was.
there's a lot missing, and they're starting to replace them. But the bottom line is, almost with very few exceptions, every residential street in Lynn Haven has a 25 mile per hour speed limit. I believe 7th Street is 30 miles per hour, and I'm really not sure why, but I believe that was what the sign had on it before the storm.
Okay, thank you. very
You're
much.
welcome. Anyone else? So haven't missed anyone for public commentary. Okay, moving on then to item number 8. Thank you all for speaking. Consent agenda includes just the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mayor, I do have I'll make a motion with a caveat.
Okay,
Under items 15, no, we're on.
well, if we make a motion to approve, then once we discuss, you can make the motion
Okay.
to amend or,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve it.
is there a second?
Mayor, one thing to address is the 2 new commissioners were not here for the previous meeting, so they cannot approve the commission meeting minutes.
And we don't have enough people here
We don't
to
have a
approve.
quorum, so I would suggest that we move this to the next meeting.
So even though they have the copy of the minutes in front of
They
them?
could authenticate whether that's an accurate copy or not,
Okay.
since they weren't here.
Okay,
Mayor, if I may, we did contact the 2 commissioners that are here now and let them know that the entire packet was online, that they probably wanted to read that packet. So
I think what he's saying is because they weren't here, they can't compare the minutes to what actually happened. Is that correct?
I'm not saying anybody with city staff or anybody else did anything wrong, just simply they weren't here, so they couldn't vote on something as being accurate if they weren't here.
So is there a motion to defer the approval of these minutes to the next meeting?
So moved.
A second? You can do that. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to defer the approval of these minutes until the next regular meeting. Any objection? Ms. Gaynor? Mr. Commissioner Russell?
Mayor, if I may, can we correct the one issue that I have on the minutes for the next meeting?
I'll defer to attorney, but I believe we have to have motion, second, discussion, and then asking for amendments or additions to the minutes at that time, I believe is the proper procedure, but you go ahead if you think differently.
I would like to know what Commissioner Russell would like addressed, and then we can review it when we bring it back next time.
Okay.
But I don't think we can vote to approve a change or deletion as the mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Russell, do you want to bring up the point that you have?
Yeah, under item 17, I'd like it noted that, that I proposed us tabling that for 2 weeks to give you time to collect more signatures. for your petition, ma'am.
Okay,
That's all I've got.
okay. Is there anything else? All right, then we'll move on. We've had a motion and a second to defer these minutes until the next regular meeting. Ms. Gainer, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perna,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so now I have a question about it. So even though we're deferring, the two commissioners to my left still would not have attended, so we're waiting until we have Mrs. Tender, Commissioner Tender here, so that we would have three. Is that why we're deferring?
Commissioner Tender, Commissioner Russell, and yourself would be the three that can vote on the meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, moving on to old business. Item number 9, the second and final reading of ordinance number 1075, amendments to the City of Lynn Haven Land Development Code. And this will be an actionable item this evening. Thank you. Ms. Gaynor, would you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 1075, an ordinance by the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending section 1.07.00 of the Unified Land Development Code to amend definitions and to repeal section 3.01.00 flood damage prevention regulations, to adopt a new section 3.01.00 flood damage prevention regulations, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain, to administer, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, amending section 9.02.04, specific requirements for variances in flood hazard areas, amending section 10.00.02, development permits and local development orders, amending section 10.01.02, general requirements for all applications, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion for acceptance?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for ordinance 1075 approval. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Any from the public? Mrs. Walker?
Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. On the first page of the commission agenda report dated April 23, item 1, report in brief, midway down the background paragraph, it states that it is in the public interest that the city adopt amendments to the floodplain management regulations that are coordinated with the Florida Building Code. To this end, the city adopted ordinance in 2017 to be in line with the state's model ordinance. However, FEMA was not happy with the amendments and contracted with a consultant to help us and other government jurisdictions produce an alternative ordinance. My question is, did we pay money for this contracted service? And if so, what might that have been?
I don't know the answer to your question. Sorry.
Mayor, the
Yes.
answer is no.
Okay, the answer is no.
Nothing was paid.
Not from the city of Lynn Haven to the contract.
Thank you. Is there any other comment or question from the public? And there appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perna,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so ordinance 1075 is approved. Item number 10 is the second and final reading of ordinance number 1076, amending the City of Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances. Ms. Gaynor, do you have that one? Thank you.
Ordinance number 1076, an ordinance by the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations to adopt technical amendments to the Florida Building Code and for other purposes, providing for applicability, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Are there any questions or discussion from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perna,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved. Moving on to new business, item number 11. This is the request for approval of task order for the Porter Park Improvements Phase 2 project, detailing the scope of services for the Restore Grant Management, and this report is from Vicki Gaynor, our acting city manager.
Mayor, as you know, we've started the Porter Park Phase 2 of the improvements. We also have some money from the Restore Grant. This grant is very, very intense. It will take a lot of time and energy to report some of the very technical side for the Restore Grant. So we are asking that the Panhandle Engineering firm help us with administering this grant. They have already taken on and helping to administer the grant for the Panama City area, city of Panama City. So we think it just fits in line. This way we make sure that we're following all of the guidelines, all of the regulations, because some of the federal guidelines are very, very intense.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any discussion or questions from the commission?
Just, Mayor, if I may,
Sure, go ahead.
just to qualify, this is not to exceed $15,000, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion from the board? Any questions from the public? Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I didn't hear Mr. Wilson's question.
I'm sorry, I said that the task order is to not to exceed $15,000.
Thank you very much. Just for point of information, Panhandle Engineering is doing this. They the ones that wrote the grant, and they brought it to you. Okay, this is back to the old practice of other people writing the grant, and then they get the job. Is that's the way I look at it?
I think the way that you're phrasing that is a little bit
I understand.
tongue in cheek. When an engineering firm or an entity brings the money for a project that is going to benefit the city, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about bringing money to get a job. I don't believe that's quite what we're saying, Mr. Walker.
Yes, I understand the way you did that. Just that we have changed from our grant writer writing the grants, where we oversee the grants and we assign it to the work order to the people, the company. That's the
We
way
still
it
have
used to be.
people on staff who write grants, for example, Ben
That's right.
John Kay just wrote one
But
recently.
it seems to have changed now. The companies write the grant, they get the grant, they bring it to the city, and then all of a sudden, they get the job too. That was questioned a long time ago by Mr. Robitaille, and I thought that was a very good point. But another point here is Panhandle Engineering is dealing with the grant, dealing with the Restore Act, and dealing with the money going to Porter Park. Wasn't Panhandle Engineering the engineering company that did the initial 2 changes to Porter Park, which failed?
Sir, Panhandle Engineering has been part of the Restore Grant for Porter Park from the beginning, including the boat ramp changes, which the grant was already in process when I became mayor.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm not sure if you're asking if there's some
My question is this.
impropriety or if, I don't understand what you're
No, I'm
saying.
just asking if Panhandle Engineering is the same company that did restore the Porter Park twice, and it wasn't done correctly.
Sir, I don't know if that's before my time or what you're referring to. I'll be glad to meet with you after the meeting, try to find the history of what you're asking, but I'm not really sure what your question is. I apologize.
Answer your question, yes, it was just before your time, but not before my time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir, for bringing that to our attention. You're out of order. Are there any other questions or discussion from the public regarding the task order for Porter Park? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so the task order stands approved. Moving to item number 12, this is for the appointment of new planning commission members. The director of planning and permitting has a report, I believe. Amanda Richard, do you mind bringing that forward for us? And before you start, I just wanted to thank all those who submitted applications and who are willing to give up their time to help with the city through the planning board. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mayor Commissioner. We have 3 vacancies on the planning commission at the moment, and so what I'm requesting is that you appoint 3 new planning commission members. The City of Lynn Haven Planning Commission consists of 7 members who are appointed by the City Commission to sit a 4-year term. Their duties are to prepare the comprehensive plan or comp plan amendments, make recommendations to the City Commission on comp plan amendments, hold at least 1 public hearing on proposed comp plan amendments, and recommend any changes to the comprehensive plan. They also review proposed changes to the ULDC codes or any amendments to the ULDC. They review and recommend approval or denial of local development orders to the City Commission, excluding plats that are between 3 to 50 lots. And they hear appeals of denial of certificates of concurrency and make a recommendation to the City Commission. Other duties also by ordinance or policy. So the Planning Commission recently lost 3 commission members. Mr. Brandon Aldridge resigned in order to run for a position on the City Commission. Robert Sterrett resigned because he has relocated outside of the city limits due to the hurricane. And Mr. George Outlaw has resigned due to family circumstances. We did receive applications from 4 citizens to fill the 3 positions. One of those is actually currently serving on the Board of Adjustments. And so I recommended the other 3 to fill the various vacant positions that were left with the other 3 that have recently resigned. However, and I did give you a copy of all of their applications, so that was just a recommendation for me, because if we use the Board of Adjustments member, we're going to be looking for someone to fill that board, and that board is more difficult to fill traditionally than the planning board. And I have a feeling we're going to have quite a few variances come up soon. And so, the decision is yours entirely.
Did you have a chance to discuss that with the person who's the member of the Board of Adjustments?
No, I didn't.
No. Thank you. Okay. All right, is there a motion for approval of the 3 recommended by Amanda Richard?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Any discussion or questions from the public? Yes, sir.
Lyle Bird, 917 Pennsylvania. My question to the board is, are we allowed to know the names of the applicants for the plan?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Commissioner Russell can read them for you.
The 3 that we are looking to approve are Neil Jones, Richard Gibbons, and Jeffrey Snyder.
Is that your question? Okay. Any other questions from the public? Okay. Ms. Gaynor, would you call the roll for approval, please?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Pardo,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so those 3 stand approved, and we also thank the 4th member who's still serving for the Board of Adjustments. And again, thank you to all who are willing to serve on a board for the betterment of the city of Lynn Haven. Your time is much appreciated. Item number 13 is a request for transfer of law enforcement trust fund monies to the Matt Reamer K-9 Fund. Chief Ramey, did you have comments about it?
Unless the public does.
Maybe just a brief summary of what's happening. That would be great.
Sure. The Law Enforcement Trust Fund is basically a fund that is, by statute, has to be approved by the board. And there's $6,200 that have been sitting there. I don't know how long it's been sitting there, but it was prior to me and prior to Chief Reamer. So you can use it for drug prevention or education, and since the dogs will be dually certified, it'll be used for drug prevention.
So just transferring those funds into the K-9 fund from where they've been sitting for many years.
Yes,
Okay, all right. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from the board?
Mayor, if I may.
Please.
Acting Chief Reamer, after this, how much money do you still need to put?
We've actually had a couple more donations than $200 and $300 amounts. So I would have to get with Ms. Beverly tomorrow, but I think we're getting very close.
Okay, you're somewhere around 23,000 right now? That's great. That's great. Okay, so that stands approved. You didn't call the roll yet. Go ahead. The question interrupted. Go ahead.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Pardo,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, now it stands approved. Congratulations, Acting Chief Raymond. Item number 14 is discussion and approval to extend the period of performance through June the 30th, 2019 for task order number 12018 FRS Hurricane Michael Lynn Haven dated October 30th, 2018 between the city of Lynn Haven, Florida and Tetra Tech Incorporated. Ms. Gaynor, do you have a report?
Yes, ma'am. This is actually a contract that's already in place, and it's getting very close to this contract ending. This will cost the city nothing, but we want to get ahead of it in terms of Tetra Tech is now our consultant who helps us a lot with FEMA, helps us a lot with documents, emails. They are just really great to us and trying to help us pull together our reimbursements. And so this particular document will just give us until the end, I think that's end of June, to pull together another contract, which will start in July. So it's just extending it.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board?
Yes.
Go ahead.
If I may. I'd like to know, how much money have we brought in due to the help of Tetra Tech?
So currently we have about 4.5 million that's in the reimbursement process. So that's where we are, and then we have another 4.5 million that will be coming within the next 45 days of the first set of 4.5 million. So they are helping us with reimbursements.
Okay. Have there been delays of any sort in reimbursement?
There are some delays accordingly to some things, and I'm going to defer to our legal on those delays.
I just have a couple questions here. What kind of timeline do you know are we looking at for getting some reimbursement over, let's say, the next 3 months? What is Tetra Tech saying that we should be getting to in the 3-month period? Have they set those goals out there for you guys?
We actually do, and I'm going to defer to our legal on that.
Mr. Aldridge, I would recommend that you sit down on the representatives from Tetra Tech and review the many months of work they put in, the different obstacles that we're working through, the red tape that they have to work through along with the city on these specific issues. This, on what's before you right now, does not add cost. There's an original task order that went to, I believe, the date somewhere just generally around this point, and they need to extend it out with no cost. They're currently under contract, which is an enforceable contract. I'm not aware of any reasons for us to any default issues with Tetra Tech on their end. So because it's adding no cost to the bottom line of the city at this time, I would suggest that maybe you meet with Tetra Tech individually, and then obviously you'll have a vote on this issue just momentarily.
Yeah, I'd like to meet with Tetra Tech. I'm a business person, so I'm results driven, and I'm not seeing the results some of the other areas are. Just throwing that out there. So I would like to set up a meeting with them and talk to them if I could.
And I think that is an excellent idea. I'm going to allow the city attorney to break in if you'd like to, but I feel the need to say something here. And so if you feel that I have moved out of the purview of where I should discuss due to what I'm saying, just tell me that you advise me to stop. But as most of you know, transparency is part of me. That's who I am. And I think Commissioner Aldridge's question is well put. The city has done its due diligence in uploading all of the information and documenting everything correctly. Tetra Tech has also been beside the city and has done a fabulous job in doing that. We have uploaded almost $9 million in the Category A expedited section of FEMA, and FEMA is a complicated web. We are prepared to upload another $8 million in a different category with FEMA. Right now, there is some halt due to some of the issues going on in the city. It has nothing to do with the way it's been documented. It has nothing to do with this company. It is because there's an investigation ongoing, and that's why the attorney is not willing to discuss it further. But it has nothing to do with due diligence done by the city employees nor Tetra Tech. So I just wanted to make that clear, and we hope that this will be cleared very soon and the city can move forward. We have a lot of money that's going to be coming to us thanks to the diligence of both the employees and Tetra Tech. And I feel good about that. Moving on, so we've had discussion and approval to extend this period of performance of this task order with Tetra Tech. Is there any further discussion or questions? And your question was well put. Any from the public? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so this will permit them to continue working on our behalf. Thank you. And then finally, number 15 is discussion and approval for the 2019 4th of July Parade Grand Marshal. If you can believe, we're already planning. We approved the parade route, and we've had some discussions with staff. And I did ask a recommendation in one of these meetings and wanted to put it before you. I would like to see us, this is a very special year, I'd like to see us have 2 Grand Marshals for this parade. And one of them is a citizen who means a lot to all of us, and that is Mr. Leon Miller. He has been a leader in education. He's been a leader in this community for many, many years. He is very special to each of us, and especially in his ability to stand for the rich history of the African American community in Lynn Haven and helping that culture to remain alive and well. And we've been able to bring Black History Month celebrations forward due to his efforts. And so King Griffin Park improvements due to his efforts. So I think it's a well-earned title. And then my second one is personal. I don't normally involve family or ask for personal things, but my daughter Hillary Keeley, who grew up here, who went to school in this very room and operated the TV station behind me when she was little, brought the first truck of supplies to this town from Jacksonville with less than 24 hours after the storm, followed by 6 more trucks with totals of thousands and thousands of dollars of food and supplies that came before any others arrived. She also single-handedly organized a hometown Thanksgiving dinner for this community as well as the surrounding areas with thousands of people coming and having a wonderful dinner. She was able to secure grants of in excess of $50,000 for that event through Publix, Popeyes, and Commissioner Perno also helped with that event as well. We want to thank him for that. But in addition to that, she reached out to Holland and Knight and was instrumental in forming a hurricane relief trust fund, which has touched hundreds of people. And so on behalf of her, and she would be very upset with me, but I would like to ask that my daughter Hillary Keeley be one of the Grand Marshals. So I would ask for a motion for those 2 or one of the 2. Thank you.
Mayor, I would wholeheartedly make a motion for both of those people.
Thank you.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the public or any comments from the board? And there appears to be none. And Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, and I thank you very much for that. Those are 2 hometown people who I think will represent as well as the Grand Marshals. Thank you so much. At this time, we move on to item number 16. Before we adjourn, I would just like once again to welcome Commissioners Perno and Commissioner Aldridge and hope that your time on this board will be exciting for you. And we welcome you wholeheartedly. We thank you for this great number who came out tonight to see them at their first commission meeting. And with that, I will adjourn.